Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to Musical Talk. My name is Nick Hudson. Hope everyone is having a lovely winter season. It's got very cold here, so we're enjoying sitting in our warm little studio recording an episode here. We're going to be discussing a small little film that's come out recently based on a mildly successful musical called Wicked. And in the second half of this episode, we're also going to be discussing a Peter Pan drag pantomime. Hello, Hannah.
Hello, Nick.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Wind beaten, but I'm here.
Yes, thank you for making the way down the stairs to come to the studio.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me downstairs.
It's an exciting time for musical theatre fans because it's a rare occasion we get to have a big film musical. And to say we have probably had now, at the moment, one of the most obnoxious marketing campaigns for a film musical I think there's ever been.
Yeah.
We're talking, of course, about Wicked, which is the Stephen Schwartz, Winnie Holzman musical. If you're new to this podcast,
welcome.
If you're new to musical theatre, let me explain what it is. It's, quote, the untold story of the Witches of Oz. And it's been a musical for 25 years or something like that.
Wow.
Ish, I think. And
still going strong.
Still going strong. And you only saw the stage show of it this year, didn't you?
Yes, when we went back. I haven't got my phone on me to have a look. But yes, we went earlier in the year to go and
whenever
watch
Eurovision was.
Yeah, it was,
August,
wasn't it? Sometime
Yeah.
around then. In the latter part of the year, we went to go and see the stage show of Wicked, and that is the first time that I had ever seen it. I knew that it was about Elphaba and Glinda, and that's about all I knew. I knew there was a song called Popular and Defying Gravity, and that was all I knew. So to go and actually see the stage show and be a complete newbie to the entire story, I think you were shocked as somebody that knew it so well to be like, what do you mean? This is one of the biggest shows ever and you don't know anything about it. So yeah, I'm relatively new to the whole world of Wicked, as I'm sure a lot of people will be coming into it now with the film.
Which is still so weird to me when I see people say, oh my God, there's a musical out called Wicked and the songs are really good. And I just think, where have you been?
Yeah. I mean, you're so based around the home of theatre living here. So, and because you've always lived in this area.
Downstairs.
No, but you've always lived in West London,
Yeah.
and you're so close to the West End that shows are very accessible to you. And we've spoken about this before on the show, but Wicked is one of those shows that tours a lot, but when you are in a position of, is it a show that I really want to spend my money on, spend travel on, and a hotel on to go and see? Sometimes other shows take that priority, which is what had happened for me. And Wicked was always one of those shows that it wasn't going anywhere. So it's one of those I've always had time to be like, I can see it any time, and I've just put it off and off and off. So when you turned around to me and said, do you want to go and see Wicked? I was still like, okay, not top of my priority list, but I'm...
It's 20 minutes away.
Yeah,
so.
but I'm aware that obviously it's around and it's one that I'd see at some point. I'm like, okay, let's make now that some point. And... yeah, I was very mixed-minded about it, about the stage show. But I can see, especially in some areas of the audience, and I think we discussed this when we discussed the show, that how it can be so incredible to certain ages of audiences, like your younger fan base of your younger girls. So I get it, I do. I remember sitting in the interval and thinking, what the fuck is this? What is this? But then Act 2 came along and so many more things were tied up and I was like, oh, okay.
Which leads us into the film.
Which does lead us into the film.
Part 1.
Oh my goodness. So I remember you telling me that it was going to be part 1 months and months and months back. But it was never advertised anywhere. Yeah. It was just like the Wicked movie. Then they did all the promotion for it and everything.
And I thought they found their sense and not done it.
Yeah, exactly. Because everything they were advertising for the film, in trailers and adverts for it wasn't saying part 1. It was just saying Wicked, the movie. And I remember speaking to a colleague at work who's a big musical theatre fan about this, and I said, yeah, you do know that it's only going to be, this was back in the summer, so you do realise that it is only going to be part 1 and it ends with Defying Gravity. She's like, what? No, it can't be. And I said, yeah, and the whole length of the film is longer than
the entire
musical.
The interval.
Exactly. And she was like, what? No, that can't be right. That can't be right. And you go and see it, and it's not until it says it like on the title card, part 1, and you're like, oh,
and everyone gets their phones out and takes a photo.
Don't, because that has been driving me mental. Whoever started this trend on Twitter of encouraging photos to be taken in the cinema needs a lesson in etiquette. And I feel like this is something that's dropping with the theatre as well, but at least you've got ushers there to kind of keep things in check. Like the other week when we saw Stranger Things, okay, it's distracting when someone comes at you or like the few rows down with a torch, but then once they've been told, they think, oh, okay, I'll behave now, and it doesn't happen again. But the cinema,
or once their seat has been tapped, they don't do it again.
Don't. But the cinema is a whole other ball game these days.
But anyway, audience aside, this was a film I was quite excited to see because
I have never seen you this excited for something.
Yeah, you have. But that's for another podcast to listen to, which my theme park podcast.
But this excited for theatre then?
Yeah.
I've never
film.
Unless it's blimmin' Hallmark films.
Yeah.
I've never seen you this excited to go to the cinema. And that's
red and green, not pink and green.
You have been badgering on at me since before this came out. We need to go and see Wicked.
Yeah.
And then it came out while we were away. And you were like, we need to go and see Wicked when we get back. We need to figure out a day to go and see Wicked. And I'm like, whatever, So nonchalant. And you're like, but you need to come and see Wicked with me.
I think because it's always been a big part of my life for personal reasons, but also Wicked is as old as this podcast is because we had Stephen Schwartz on episode 2.
Oh, I love that.
So, and he was here for Wicked rehearsals. So it's always kind of been... We followed the progress of Wicked, like from being...
Yeah, watching the progress of Wicked and the progress of musical talk, putting them on a graph.
I know. We're doing rather well. The film will be out soon, but it's so nice to see... It's so nice to see it's come full circle, because if you know your history of Wicked, you know it was owned by Universal, the rights, and then it was going to be a film, and then Stephen Schwartz had the wonderful idea of turning it into a musical, and then it happened, and now it's being made into a film again, and there's talk of there's going to be part 2, obviously, then there's going to be a sequel, and are they going to do Son of a Witch? Now, let's go all the way back to the beginning of Wicked. You've read the book.
No, I haven't.
I thought you have the book at home.
I have the book. Well, my mum actually has the book.
Okay.
It's on her bookcase. It's always been on my to-read list, but I've just never got round to it. And it's only really this year, since I've moved here, that I got back into reading. So I'm like, okay, maybe when we go home for Christmas, I'll just nab it off the bookshelf and give it a read. Yeah. But I've known bits and pieces of it. And I am fascinated watching all these newbies like, oh my God, I saw a tweet, like, oh my God, I finally got her. And it's somebody with their copy of the new reprinted Wicked with a new cover of Cynthia and Ariana on the front. And then they're like, oh my God, this is not what I want. And like everybody freaking out about the actual content of it.
And we talked about this years and years and years ago on the podcast with I remember I was sitting with Emma Williams, and she was saying something along the lines of, they are selling this book to the wrong target audience, because the target audience for Wicked on Stage is not 12-year-old girls. Mm-hmm. The book is not made for them.
No, it's not. It's made for 18 plus.
Yeah.
Which is the same. It's like Devil Wears Prada. Mm-hmm. So they've made the film, obviously very successful film, nothing like the book. And the biggest mistake, in my opinion, that they did was market that film at families and make it like a PG or a 12. If they'd have actually been true to the book and made it like a 15 or an 18, Lord, it would have been good. Yeah. And then I think it's the same with the musical. But then I guarantee they'll try and palm the book off on you. And if it's like younger people that are kind of like, oh yeah, this is cool, and then they actually read the book, it's not quite the same audience.
No.
So
it's a bit irresponsible of them to do that. But the film.
How many 12-year-old girls are going to get the book for Christmas of Wicked?
I dread to think.
Mum, what's an orgy?
The film is as everyone is saying, we don't need to repeat it. It's excellent.
I went in not wanting to like it.
Of course.
Because that's me.
Yeah. That's our episode. Good night.
Yeah, I'm annoyed at how good it was.
Yeah. I'm surprised at how good Ariana Grande was. And let's talk about her performance. Because she's the one I remember when the film came out, everyone said, oh, God, she's going to be singing everything really breathy and behind the voice like she does. But she was singing high B flats, and it was kind of absolutely legit performance. Now, they can do wonders with audio editing and trickery in the studio, but there's all this, like, they were doing some of it live, they were doing some of it in the studio, but she has wanted to play this role for 20 years, I'm guessing.
And there's videos of her at 14 singing songs from it. Like, it's...
And she really plays it extremely well. Cynthia, we all know, is a huge, huge vocal talent.
See, this is the first time I've ever heard of her.
Well, people in the theatre world know she's a Tony Award-winning singer. She did I Can't Sing here. She did Sister Act here. She did Colour Purple here, then went to do it on Broadway. She's more of a kind of performer. Everyone's saying, yeah, she will be great. We know that.
Yeah, a secure choice.
Yeah, but Ariana...
Yeah. Risky. Do you know, it's funny, I saw, because today or yesterday, whenever it was, is the 8-year anniversary of Hairspray Live. And I saw a tweet with somebody with a picture of Ariana as Penny and a picture of Dove Cameron as Amber. And saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe I was saying she's going to play Glinda one day, but I was pointing at the wrong person. And they were fully expecting Dove to be the whole Glinda thing, but actually Ariana's the one that's got it and smashed it out the park.
Do you think, because I don't know much about Miss Cameron, but is Ariana Grande Dove Cameron?
Okay, yeah.
Is Ariana more of a pop star than Dove Cameron?
Yeah, I'd say so. They both kind of come from the same era. One's Disney Channel, one's Nickelodeon.
Okay.
And but both come from that kind of child star fame. Obviously both very talented musicians and both very heavily into musicals. But I'd say as a worldwide brand, Ariana, I'd say. Dove Cameron is still well known, but I'd say Ariana's the one that...
And I think the saving grace of this film is that James Corden had nothing to do with it. And also it was kind of nice. We love Meryl Streep, but it's nice not to see her be in something for once.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Let
someone else have a go. What I did love about the show when it comes to the songs is they didn't mess around with it.
No, I remember you saying that that's something you were worried about.
It was surprised we got slightly more new material, but nothing was cut. A tiny bit was cut from on stage. The I Am a Sentimental Man is a longer sequence, but no plot was cut. The only thing added was a slightly longer bit in One Short Day in the Emerald City, which is where the cameos are, which is quite fun. And
obviously there's the extension to Unlimited in Defying Gravity, where she sings it the 3 times. Yeah,
which is also mirrors what they did for Ariana in Popular.
Okay.
I don't know if you noticed that little bit, because she sings Popular, then she goes up a couple of keys, and she keeps going up, and that's what Ariana does at the end of Defying Gravity.
Cynthia.
Yeah, Cynthia. We're with Jonathan, a friend Jonathan, presenter Jonathan, who saw it as well, and he loved it as well.
He was balloon. It made me laugh at the end of one of the numbers, and he's just there. I see his thumb go up at the end, like, oh yeah, good job.
That was The Wizard and I think.
Yeah.
But he did say they kind of...
5 stars from Jonathan Cohen.
4.
No, he said 4, didn't he?
4.
4 stars.
I think he said they throw almost too much at you, and he
said it's too loud that so loud he couldn't hear.
Yeah, it's too much, like a wall of sound. But that's sadly just the way films...
I liked it.
Yeah,
like when I hear, and I thought this when I saw it. That opening, those opening notes, that sequence, feed that into my veins, my eardrums, please. Like, I just want to be plugged into that. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, I do. But then I also appreciate that for maybe a slightly older audience, it may be too much.
Yeah.
It may be too much, and that's completely understandable.
But we both turned to each other at the end and said, "Oh, it's long."
Isn't it long? It's long. And then you were like, "Oh no, people are saying it flies by." I've got to admit, I checked my watch an hour into it.
That was in the love song, though. You don't really do love songs.
I don't do love songs. That whole sequence just does my head in.
It comes back in the second film.
Oh, for Christ's sake!
The one issue I have is that this whole splitting it up into two parts, I think, would it have worked if they released both parts at the same time? Because they very easily could have done that, because it's all made. Because now you've got a whole year. It's like seeing Act 1 of a show and then coming back a year later to see Act 2. When you have so many songs that come back in Act 2 and you have so many moments in Act 1 that mean something.
I wonder
in
if they're
Act 2.
going to re-release the first one just before the second one comes out, so people can go and watch that, and then
in streaming or in the cinema.
No, in the cinema, because people will be like, oh, I want to watch it on the big screen again, because or whether they'll do double bills.
I'm sure they will.
But it's unusual for a musical to split it, but we see it so much you look at Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2. That's one book, but they split it into two.
But in the olden days, you would have a film that was 3.5 hours long, and people had the attention spans to sit there.
I don't think it's about attention spans, though. I think it's genuinely they want to add more from the book into it, which they have done in this film, and I think it lends to it. Like the whole escape scene.
Okay.
That's not in the...
No, but is it in the novel?
I believe it is.
Okay.
And if it's not, it ties in so nicely with the balloon and everything. Is a bit more kind of...
It certainly adds a lot more... It fills a lot more gaps than... And that's what I do appreciate about this film, is that it's not just a carbon copy of the stage show like The Producers was, or things. It wasn't just a money-making exercise. They really did look at it with artistic integrity and made something of it existing material, but also fleshed a lot of things out.
Can I say as well, the other thing that I think gained a lot of hype about this film in the beginning when it was filming was things like, oh my goodness, how practical the film actually is. There wasn't a huge reliance on, we'll just do it in post. We'll fix it in post. We'll make this scene and we'll just do it on a computer. Like the fact that they planted the field of tulips, the fact that they made the train, the fact that they've actually built
the diorama and like the whole Emerald City scene, like. For me, and also I
take my witch's hat off to all the creators and the people that said, yeah, that's fine, we'll finance that, you go ahead and do it. And I think that sort of thing shows so much more in the actor's performance, because they've actually got the tactile...
Especially when they're dancing and singing and they're kind of treating it like a stage show.
You think about that bit with the Wizard and I, she's hopping over the stepping stones and everything, and it just made it so much more
It's also deeply
elevated.
Ironic because the show has very little set.
I know, but this is the thing. I think it's so hard to do these things on stage, and they went, do you know what? We're actually going to create this world. And I am so grateful that they did, because it would have been so easy to just be like, right, guys, it was another green screen day.
Tim Burton-esque kind of everything CGI.
And at the time when like Alice in Wonderland was made, it was groundbreaking. Whereas now it's so nice. There are so many businesses and craftsmen that have been supported by the Wicked film.
We saw someone on Facebook like whose parents owned a light company, and they made all the lights for the film.
Exactly. And it's things like...
And the amount of carpenters in the credits.
Unbelievable. Like, thank you for showcasing their craft. And the other thing I love as well is they did look to the West End and went, you can be in it, you can be in it, you can be in it. So it really is a showcase of the history of the stage show as well. Speaking
of, now, if you haven't seen the film and you want to remain spoiler-free, skip forward, I don't know, 3 minutes or something. What did you think of the cameos in it?
I liked it. I mean, we all know they were coming because they've been plastered over Twitter. I do feel it was a bit too long. Do you know what I mean?
So we're talking about in one short day, there's a show within the show sequence where Adina and Kristen Chenoweth both come out and play nods to the roles that they originated in the show.
And I appreciate that they did it.
It was a bit too obvious.
It was so obvious. And I'm like, I would have liked the subtlety a bit more. I thought when they were just there and they were the players and that was that, I thought they were going to move on. And no, they gave them this whole scene. And it was so unnecessary for Adina to stand there and do her bit for the end of Defying Gravity, because I think it takes away from the moment at the end. It's like, we've already heard Adina done it now.
Yeah.
Let's go home. Could have saved myself an hour and a half.
And Kristen Chenoweth does the thing where she's bashing the wand
and
stuff.
It's just a bit... It's
it's a
unnecessary.
Stephen Schwartz cameo I liked personally.
I was going to say, what did you think of the Stephen Schwartz cameo, Nick?
It was perfect, fleeting, small. He can't act, but he does his little thing. And if you know it's him, it's great. It's not kind of hitting you around the face, because no one knows who Stephen Schwartz is.
You do.
I know, but no one else knew who he was. And that's lovely. You know, it is there.
It's something little like that I'd wish they had. However, I did say to Jonathan afterwards, the outfits that Christine Chenoweth and Idina Menzel wore were stunning. I take my hat off to the costume designers.
Again, but just you
and I'm going to take... I've got several witches' hats I'm going to take off this episode, because the detail on those outfits were incredible.
Just those, or the costumes in general?
The costumes in general, sensational, but those two specifically are the ones that really stuck with me. Costume-wise, one of the things I didn't like so much, and I know it plays a nod to the stage show, is the inconsistency of Elphaba's cape and Defying Gravity. I know that it gets bigger at the end as a nod to the end of Act 1 and the way that she's lifted up and everything. But come on, it really got me. I was like, that's just inconsistent. Can we not just keep that as like she's wearing a cape? Like, if you want to see it like that, it's an effect that's done to hide the cherry picker on the stage.
I don't know what you mean.
Like, we don't need... It was unnecessary, like, to have it like that. I'm like, you don't need to. Like, I know that they did it as a little nod, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, come on.
I love the fact a lot of the orchestration stayed the same. I mean, they were magnified. Not magnified. They were... Emphasised, or not so much emphasised, but they were... As opposed to one oboe, it might be three oboes. And it's still... There's lots
Everything
of
was up to the max.
Yeah. But I loved... There's kind of in Dancing Through Life, in Loathing, in The Wizard and I, there's a kind of very modern beat going on, which is really nice. Singing was excellent for everyone. With a special credit to Jonathan Bailey, because Fiero's the kind of the role everyone sort of forgets about in this show, because it's so focused on Linda and Elphaba that the kind of third person in this love triangle, if you've seen the meme, does get often forgotten about. And he finally, Dancing Through Life, works, because it's always been a kind of
hit and miss,
wilting moment in the show where it dips a bit, but it had a real energy here, and they really take their time. That sequence goes on for about 20 minutes or something. It was long. Like, you forget there's going to be a reprise of the song, because the dance sequence where she ends up at the Ozdust ballroom,
I completely forgot this scene even existed. Bearing in mind it wasn't too long ago that we even saw the show. I came out and I said to you afterwards, was that whole thing with the Ozdust, was that actually in the show, or have they made it up for the film? And you were like, no, it's there. I'm like, I don't remember it.
The set in the show doesn't really make it clear what it is, because all that happens is the chandelier comes down and the staircase comes on.
Okay.
Whereas here it's fish. So you're probably more drawn to it anyway.
I was more drawn to the fish, I'm not going to lie.
And yeah, so it's they've finally done well with that number. Popular's excellent. All the songs are excellent. I thought Jeff Goldblum did a very touching performance of Sentimental Man.
Jeff Goldblum was Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Jeff Goldblum playing the wizard did a very good performance.
Very good.
I look forward to seeing what he does in...
You just want him to do a piano solo.
He might do, which would be nice, because the piano does feature very heavily in his song, and I think that'd be a nice way to showcase his talents. I love all the clockwork stuff in the film, because that links very heavily to the wizard and the entire concept of the show's set design, as everything is based around mechanical clockwork.
I loved that library with all of the moving.
Wheels,
I thought that was incredible. And you could tell that it was physical because of the way that all the actors were interacting with it. That, once again, is something that could have so easily just been done afterwards. But no, they built it and they did it, and it was all practical, and it was incredible. I think it reminds me a lot as well about that number, a bit like... school song in Matilda. Just because
the film or the stage
the
show?
film,
Yeah.
and elements of the stage show, because it's practical and it's physical and it's there, and for the actors it's tactile, and once again it's not something that we're used to seeing so much. But yeah, no, I love it from that point of view, and I loved as well. Speaking of Fierro and the costume design, the fact that he had on his shirt straw was sewn in, embroidered into his shirt.
And there's a lovely new line in the book where I think Glinda tells him to get stuffed.
Yeah, and I have seen, it's quite interesting now seeing people realising and tying everything together for the first time. It's like, oh my goodness. And even like his choreography was linked to the Scarecrow. But spoiler alert, but Bok is also got choreography that links to the Tin Man. He leans over and does all of that, which I've seen. And this is the thing, people are noticing it. They're saying like, oh, because I saw somebody say my sixth view of Wicked, and I've noticed in that opening shot, you know, where Fierro was going along on his horse like that very opening shot after Wicked, and it's like Fiero's there on his horse, and it's the big landscape. It's like the entrance to the castle. You can just make out Elphaba leaving and flying away.
Okay, clever. Yeah.
And the other thing that I appreciated from this film that I didn't get from the stage show was she's learning the levitation spells at the start. That's what Morrible is teaching her. And then she goes to levitate with the monkeys when she reads the Grimoire. And then she makes herself fly. And suddenly Defying Gravity for me had this whole other, like,
do you
this
think,
big moment is
like,
because of this.
The film only made me realise that Morrible has planned this all along.
Yeah.
But she's not the headmistress here.
So is she the headmistress in...
She's headmistress.
Oh, I hate all this.
Congratulations, Hannah.
Stop it. I hate it. I said this before. I hate it.
You hateify all the words they're making up.
Stop it.
So she's the headmistress at Shiz University.
Also, where the fuck did shiz come from? I hate it. I hate it.
But she is there in this film. Madame Morrible is like the head of the witch department.
She's the head of the sorcery department.
Yeah. And the headmistress in the film is played by
Keela Settle
from The Greatest Showman. Does a wonderful job. I wish she played Morrible, perhaps, or we said I want Glenn Close to play Morrible.
Glenn Close would have been an incredible,
but not that Michelle Yeoh is bad at playing.
No, she's incredible. But we were just having this chat about other people that could have played different roles in it. So, and we were like Glenn Close. We're like, Glenn Close.
But yeah, so she's not. But I think there's a whole. Made me realise, had she planned this all along?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
To get Elphaba to the wizards so they could do their little plan.
Yeah.
And I hope more of that will be revealed in, I keep on saying Act 2, but no, it's Part 2.
No, it's Act 2.
In Part 2.
But no, I think very well done.
Yeah. Excellent film. I'm sure you've seen it, listener. If you
Probably.
haven't.
We're late to the game.
Yeah.
We are very late to the game. Everybody else has said their piece, and you've probably read all this on Twitter already, but it's just our thoughts.
And I look forward to Part 2, and I look forward to seeing what they do. Like, will the excitement have died down? It reminds me of when It Chapter 2 came out. Was the excitement kind of lost?
The Avengers. No, I know you're going to...
What was Deathly Hallows? Was it Deathly Hallows Part...
I saw Part 2 in this, and I just remember crying.
Yeah.
Because for that, and the same with Avengers, it was like the end of an era. Like being there and being present in the whole end of Harry Potter was something just completely otherworldly. Whereas this, I feel like it is a bit more like with Endgame and not Civil. Oh my God, my brain on this Sunday. But yeah, it is a bit more like you have to wait a year to find out what.
So do you think this is a trend we're going to see more of?
I think so. It's the thing as well, like with the Twilight films, with the fourth one for the Twilight one, they split that into two, and the Hunger Games and stuff like that. And you look at books and you think, you don't really need to do it. You're just doing it as a money-making exercise. But I mean, I was against this whole thing for Wicked making it 2 films. I really was. But I do think it is an interesting concept to give each act its own moment, because that is kind of what you get on stage, but also being able to, and it's like you said, this film is such a long time coming. If they didn't do it properly, there was going to be backlash.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if they do it properly now, it doesn't need to be remade in 2 years' time.
Also, what we're hearing is that
Oh, no. I know what you're
they're going to start putting the changes from the film into the stage show.
No. Do it as a limited run somewhere, okay? Find a new theatre. Do it as a limited run.
Universal Studios.
Oh, maybe. When they come to the UK, give it a few years, and yes, but do it as a limited.
Epic Universe. That's another rumor.
Oh, yeah. You said about having an additional land for that, but. Yeah, have a limited run, because I heard the rumours of, they're going to get Cynthia in and they're going to get Ariana in and they're going to put them on stage.
I see Cynthia doing it more than Ariana. I can see,
but I just say...
Ariana had to be carried onto that stage.
I do it as a limited run somewhere, okay? Put on an 8th production of Wicked around the world and do that, but don't...
Or an arena tour.
But don't mess with the original, because I think for so many people that haven't had the opportunity to witness what it was based on, it would be such a shame for them to only know this version. Do you know what I mean? It's
for me, it's like, when Disney Land in Anaheim turned the Haunted Mansion into the Nightmare Before Christmas version for 4 months of the year.
Yeah. Do a separate
If that's your
attraction.
one chance of going, you'll never get on, you'll never see the original. But as I said, I can see Cynthia doing it on Broadway or in London. And if it's, I know we went the night it was Eurovision, but I don't know how the show is selling, but I'm sure the film will help ticket sales.
I'm sure
keep
it will
the price down. But
that's the thing, they're going to up the price because now it's popular.
Yeah. Or Wonderful.
What?
There's a song in that too called Wonderful.
I don't know. We haven't seen that film yet. But if one thing that it is consistent, because it was consistently loud and I couldn't understand what was being said on the stage show. And the opening bit where Ariana was talking and singing, I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand a word she was saying. And so I will say it was loud and inaudible.
Speaking of our washing machine.
I was going to say it's hit the spin.
Don't worry, there's no tornado coming. We're fine. But you made an interesting point. That's like just going back to the plot, just thinking about it. How do we know that you can't get Elphaba wet?
Yeah, exactly. I question this because there's this bit where obviously like it starts at the end basically and then it tells the story. And the Wicked Witch of the West, anybody who's seen The Wizard of Oz knows that she melts with water. There's a bit in Wicked the movie, part 1. Is it in the stage show as well?
Yep.
Where Morrible puts up her umbrella and she's like, oh no, dear, you can't get wet. And I'm like, how do we know this?
I always thought it was there as a kind of
little nod.
Giggle reference to the film.
Yeah. But the fact that it's still there and it must be a genuine thing that Elphaba can't get wet. I'm like, how did she find this out? How did Morrible find this out? And why can't she get wet?
Had Morrible been planning this?
Like, has Elphaba never been swimming as a kid? Has she never been caught in a rainstorm? Has she ever showered or taken a bath?
Yeah.
Because she's only just learning to harness her power now. She can hardly go, clean.
Yeah.
Clean.
Ball gown. So we'll see you in a year's time for our review of Act 2, Part 2. But next we're going to...
the musical, the movie, spectacular, wonderful, popular thing.
But next we're going to be talking about Peter Pan, the pantomime. The pantomime done with drag kings and drag queens, which sounds like your idea of heaven, Hannah.
Oh, yes.
Who have we got in this show?
Oh, my goodness. You went to the thing.
Yeah.
Who is it?
It's Richard Energy.
Richard Energy, Cheryl Hole are two that I can think off the top of my head, but we're not doing it any justice right now.
Yeah. So join us for a discussion for that.
In part 2 of this episode?
Yeah, in a year's time. Thank you. Goodbye. Well, hello, you join us at the press night for Peter Pan, presented by Tuckshop, and it's a drag pantomime. So... I'm with Hannah, who is a massive fan of drag. Hello, Hannah.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Tell us who we're seeing tonight. Go on, then.
Oh, gosh. From memory, or can I look at the programme?
Look at the programme.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, off the top of my head, we've got Richard Energy, we've got Cheryl Hole, we've got Kitty Scott-Claus, Ginger Johnson, Kate Butch, Cheryl Hole, Yishu Black. Bailey J. Mills is listed, but I believe they might not be in tonight's performance. We've also got Mahatma Candy and Ophelia Love. So yeah, it's gonna be a good show.
You were a massive fan of Death Drop, weren't you?
Yeah, I was just about to say. Obviously, this comes from Tuckshop, which also gave us Death Drop, both at the Garrick Theatre and again at the Criterion. So yeah, a lot of the people from this have been in various iterations of Death Drop as well, such as Richard Energy, Kitty Scott-Claus and Cheryl Hole. So yeah, it's going to be a good show.
Now, we talked about how Peter Pan tends not to work
As a pantomime.
You were saying before we started recording that you hope they play on that aspect, don't
I
you?
think they will. It's like you said in the advertisement, how are we going to fly when we have no budget for flying? They'll just stand there, shake their hands and go, fly, done. That's enough for me. That is enough for me. But I think with something like Peter Pan, you saw it at the Palladium last year, so you saw it as big as the pantomime is going to be, whereas I feel like it might work for a drag sort of show, mainly because there are so many elements where it doesn't work, that you can use the drag to play on comedy as well, so I'm hoping it'll lend itself.
It's always interesting seeing performers play people, play people. And I remember thinking that when I saw Death Drop, because I said to my friends, like, they're obviously playing these characters that the audience had come to see, the drag personas, then playing characters in a play. So it's multi-layering of performing, which is something that I always enjoy. I hope there's songs in this tonight. You said also before we started recording, what's your criteria for a kind of something on the podcast? I presume there'll be songs because it's pantomime and they always tend to do songs. We'll let you know our thoughts in the interval, but Hannah, hope you enjoy it.
I hope you enjoy.
Let's get on with that one. Yes, we're just waiting for the show to start, and you have a theory, don't you, Hannah?
I do, but only because it was a running joke with Death Drop, and something similar has appeared here tonight at Peter Pan, Tuckshop's newest production, and there was a sign up in the foyer that Nick said, somebody's not on tonight, and the sign reads, due to the indisposition of Bailey J. Mills, the role of Tinkerbell and any other roles that may require filling will be played by Ophelia Love. And I feel it's a running joke. It's something that just clicked with Nick, who thought it was just a sickness note, but actually as it reads, I do wonder that it will be a running joke throughout the show.
We'll find out. Here we go. Interval's nearly over, but I just thought I'd grab some thoughts from you, Hannah. What are they?
It's unlike anything I've ever seen before. I love how they're doing it with minimal sets and things.
They are, yes.
I've never seen one of Tuckshop's pantomimes before, so it's really interesting to see how they do it. And obviously, with sharing a venue with a pretty big production that is Stranger Things here at the Phoenix Theatre. So it's really nice to see the big contrast, because we were only here a few weeks ago to see Stranger Things, and now seeing the smaller scale back production that is Peter Pan. Cast are brilliant, and I love the variety of the musical numbers that they've popped in as well.
I mean, I think I knew one of the songs, and that was The Revolting Children from
I was
Matilda.
going to say, as someone that is such a die-hard Matilda fan, Nick, how did you find seeing that?
Oh, it's great.
In here?
And they change the lyrics and they work and things, and it's very funny. It's very, very rude.
Were you expecting that?
No, I wasn't expecting the C word like 1 second into the show. The indisposition is real, isn't it?
Yes.
Apparently, but we will never know. But it's really, really enjoyable, very, very funny. It's fading away from the plot of Peter Pan, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in that too. But just really, really enjoying it. And all the queens are excellent, aren't they?
They're incredible, really incredible. And yeah, be interesting to see what they do in Act 2.
Well, Act 2 of Peter Pan, the drag panto, has ended. We are now home. overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I think had I known more about the drag race, not clientele, but the drag race world and the references, I would have enjoyed it. I don't want to say a lot more, but I would have got more out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, personally, I've never seen The Traitors, and I know you haven't either, but it's like there was a whole Traitors sequence / reference in there. There were also, pop culture references. They were also particularly popular within sort of gay culture as well. Another one!
Yeah, another one.
Not another
Some
one.
quite old references as well.
What? Take the money!
Yes, and is that the Come Dine With Me?
Yeah.
And another one being quite an old reference too. But also, we had the strange holding space for the lyrics gag, which was quite fun. But yeah, as we said just before Act 2 started, we heard that one of the queens was meant to be in it, but now isn't. So it's kind of... I think the cast...
It's made reference to throughout the show as well,
yeah,
isn't it?
But I think they've had a bit of a difficult rehearsal period, and that's a kind of thing with these kind of... Not one-off shows, because it's once a week at the Phoenix Theatre. And you always get the impression with those kind of shows, whether they're one-off concerts or whether they're shows like this, you're kind of watching a tech rehearsal.
Definitely. I mean, I do feel for everyone involved when mics start to go and you haven't got your sound cues are quite right and things like that, so I do feel like it's still very rough around the edges, and I appreciate that for productions like this it is hard for them to be able to get things smooth, polished and ready for an audience when they don't have time to have a rehearsal in the space when Stranger Things is on 6 nights a week, 5 nights a week, whatever they're on for. So it's incredibly hard when you're splitting the venue between 2 shows and they go in on the main show's day off.
At least the show has a good lighting rig and a good sound rig, though.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true. And you know that they've got space.
Yeah. Even though they're only using like
a quarter of it.
Or a third of the stage or something. Yeah.
The other thing that I did mention to you, though, on the way home is I appreciate that pantomime is a little bit rough around the edges occasionally. When I say that, I mean pantomimes are usually polished. You look at, and I hate to compare because it is the gold standard of performance, but the Palladium Panto. I've never seen it, but I'm very much used to your village hall, town hall productions. And I feel that's what this more kind of lends to when it comes to quote-quote charm, purely for the minimised scenery and sets and things. But also, I do feel maybe it's because they've had issues and tricky rehearsals. Obviously, they have had a cast member drop out at this stage. Maybe it's because the tech isn't where it should be with tech runs and things, but I do wonder sometimes, are they just using the whole thing of pantomime going wrong, quote but it's all planned? Are they actually taking that and almost taking the mick with it by not having things ready? Because you look at the West End and you think this is the gold standard of theatre that this country produces, so to then have something like this going in on a Monday night, to almost have it not ready, is that a little bit of a letdown to the audience? And
then use it as the excuse, it's a drag panto, it's all part of the fun. Doesn't really matter if we're ready or not.
It doesn't matter. If you're a paying customer, they want to see a ready performance for the audience.
And you have a friend that came all the way from Germany to see this, didn't you?
I do. And she absolutely loves it. I went and spoke to her during the interval and she said it was brilliant. And she had seen the past couple of Tuckshop pantomimes as well. She said, you know what you're getting when you've seen them before as well. She said they're always a bit zany and a bit hectic.
I couldn't help thinking of the Palladium pantomime during this because it's something I try and see every year. Hannah and I are booked to see it.
I'm excited.
I want to say this year, but we're going next year because it's in January. When one should go to the pantomime to do it properly. And I did feel that obviously there were some routines that are similar. There were some ideas that were similar in the fact that you had kind of the Villager number 4 character. And it's just some of the gags were still good. There's some very, very funny lines which I did appreciate, and I like the script is by, who's the script by, Hannah?
Oh, did you say it was by Myra Dubois?
Yeah, the chap that portrays Myra Dubois on stage, not in this pantomime, but he is a comedy writer as well. Very, very funny, and whilst it still had drag queen references, you didn't really need to know them to get everything out, to get, you still had an enjoyable evening, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And that was what was nice about it, which you didn't have to be completely clued up on Drag Race. Yes, there were a few things, comments thrown in.
Yeah.
A few song references that probably went over your head. Like when they were falling asleep and they were... Once upon a time, there was a little black girl in the Brewster Projects, which I guess you didn't understand.
No.
But it's how RuPaul's song, Supermodel,
Okay.
starts.
Yeah, okay. But cool, it's still funny. Really enjoyed it. I like how they got away with not flying. They kind of, one of the queens came on as a cabin crew, which was quite amusing.
Oh, the Jet2 Holidays advert playing. That was brilliant.
But yes, just I think it needs tightening up, and it's a shame. It's one of those shows that I think the tightest run will be the final evening it plays.
Yeah.
Because they will have had a time to,
To get it ready by that point.
to get it ready, and it's still good fun.
Can we just also give a shout out to Kate Butch in this
Sure,
production?
give a shout out to all of them, but why Kate Butch specifically?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Played John Darling.
Yes, absolutely. Very Julian Clary in the performance.
Yeah.
But they did the 12 days or 11 days of Christmas, I think it was more like.
Oh, I don't even know what they got to in the end.
But he had to eat about, 11 mini pickles on stage and 11 were they French fancies?
Yeah.
And he was, putting them in bags and handing them to the audience. And at one point he said, "You can sell this at DragCon." Just very, very talented performer. He was my favourite. Just all credit to him. He was excellent.
No, Kate was absolutely incredible in the role of John.
Or Michael, or whichever one.
John or Michael. No, Michael's the baby, right? Yeah. Fabulously played by Cheryl Hole as well. And Kitty Scott-Claus, fabulous job as Wendy Darling.
Yeah.
Mama, Papa.
Yes.
Ta-da.
Getting posher as it goes on.
Oh, she was brilliant. She was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, Kate, she was brilliant. And Cheryl was as well. Ginger Johnson, brilliant as Captain Hook as well. Just the whole cast, really. Very strong.
Yeah.
Very, very strong. And if you're in the area or fancy seeing something a bit different, then go along.
And also, if you're more shows are doing Sunday runs now. So if you're in London on a Monday night with nothing to do and you fancy something a bit different, go and see this because it will deliver.
I think don't go expecting completely gold standard polished
flying and ships and stuff.
If you want that, then go to the Palladium, but
pay your £225 a ticket.
But no, very grateful that we were invited along.
Yeah, thank you. And they had they did have some musical theatre moments. One that Hannah adored, a song from High School Musical that I'd never heard of.
Breaking Free. Oh my goodness, you're so uncultured. Call yourself a musical theatre professional, honestly.
I'm a critic. And we had a bit of...
I know you're critical.
We had a bit
of what?
We had a bit of On My Own. And we had... it was in a musical. We had Our House at the beginning of the show. The lip syncing thing I don't really get.
Yeah, but you've always said this about it's a part of drag culture. So having a couple of lip sync numbers in there.
But the audience were going nuts during the Act 2 one, or was it Act 1 for Tinkerbell? Tink.
No, that was Act 2.
Yeah.
But also the song was "Disease" by Lady Gaga, her newest release. So obviously you're gonna go mad for it.
Right.
And don't say you haven't heard it because I played it.
I have heard it, but I don't remember. I don't remember it. But thank you for enlightening me with culture.
You're very welcome.
And it's a very funny, rude, and it's not advertised as an adult panto.
No, it's not. I was very surprised. I was like, okay, we're going to go and see a drag panto. I've never seen an adult panto before.
Yeah.
And yeah, nowhere was it advertised as being one. So we were all in for a surprise, but very well done.
And it wasn't even advertised it was at the theatre?
No, there are no signs for it anywhere. So
we felt like a kind of secret group going in to see like a show that only we knew about.
Yeah, and I think maybe because my friend that came from Germany, she was very confused when her ticket came through, and it was like, "What? You're going to see Stranger Things?" And it all came through like that, and she was like, "What?" And she had a massive panic that that's what she just booked for, and then it was like, "Oh!" It took her a while to realise it's that theatre.
Okay.
But this shows that, do you know what I mean? And I think if you are travelling from a distance, be it in this country or another country, to come and see this show, I feel maybe that could be clearer, because even then you get to the theatre and then there's no signage or there's no posters even on the ropes to say, oh, this is this show tonight.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just a sandwich board telling you would be great. But, I mean, the audience got there. They found their way.
Exactly.
So
and we all went along for the journey, and we all lived happily ever after.
we went to Neverland and came back again.
We did.
The end.
The end.
Everyone included, including the sound design, the choreographer, you here tonight, and the tube drivers on your way home.
Yes. We had all that. Excellent. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Nick.
And thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. We shall speak to you soon. Until then, have a lovely Christmas and take care. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. To find out more about the world of musical talk, you can visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk, where you'll find all our episodes, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Musical Talk.